Hi, and welcome to Regina's Corner. My name is Regina Marks. Thank you for stopping by. I have a really special guest with me today. So when we get together, we just laugh for no reason. But he calls me Auntie Mama, and I call him Nephew Son. And we just want to share some information with you and hope that it will be a blessing. So could you introduce yourself to the YouTube channel?
Hello, everybody. My name is Ramil Sampson, and I am so excited to be here today with Regina, Auntie Mama.
Thank you. Thank you for doing this. Okay. But anyway, our topic today is teaching communication for future development. And so tell us a little bit about what you do.
Well, outside of my normal, 9 to 5, I started a company called Leadership Avenue. It is a motivational speaking brand, youth development brand, and I started that back in 2017,
Okay.
LLC. And what I do is I travel around the country. They book me as a presenter, as a trainer, and as a keynote speaker. And I speak on many different life skills, transforming our mentality for life, as
Wow.
well as college readiness, generational changes that we want to do in millennial expertise as far as how to conduct that age group into the workforce.
Okay. When you're talking to an audience, like how large a group that you're actually hoping to mentor and help through life?
Really, I mean, it's whatever the event calls for. I've been in groups where it's just me and maybe 10 other students, and I've been in conferences where we have about 2,500 listening to the information that I have to present.
Okay.
So I personally, I recommend, or I prefer smaller environments because
Yeah.
you get that one-on-one to kind of dig into their lives and really understand how you can better help them in their place that they are.
Okay. So want to talk about these, the things that you're doing and things that you're talking about to help develop them for the future.
Okay. Two key areas that I talk on. One is going to be how to shift your focus in life. So whatever your goals, your aspiration, your ideals are, you want to identify those, and then you want to find the motives for that. And so
Okay.
basically find that value. Then what are your motives? And you want to line those up with all the decisions that you're going to make. So will this get me toward the goal that I have?
Okay.
That's a big subject that a lot of us younger people have issues with, because even some older ones. But if you're younger and you're like starting off in the workforce, starting off with a family, starting off into the real world outside of mom and dad's care or the
Right.
family's care, or out of high school and college, just finding what you want to do and where you want to go.
Okay.
The other half of what I talk about, and I try to instill in every session, is communication skills.
Oh, wow.
Because I'm sure you know from generation to generation, technology, communication styles
Right.
changes.
Right.
So how do we come up with a way for this generation to communicate with that generation in a way that's going to translate the information that you really need and how to receive it the way you need to receive it?
Okay.
So it's really important.
Okay. So give me some examples of maybe someone that has told you what their goal is, and how did you talk them through it to help them reach that goal?
Perfect. Okay. Well, most recent, last Thursday? So last Thursday, had a session with about 150 students. I did a one-on-one. I had them all pair off. So I did a one-on-one with a young lady, and I said, identify a goal, and then make it a SMART goal. So this first is specific. What she said, her goal was to become closer with God.
Okay.
Okay, just a general statement.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, at a conference, love it. And then I said, well, how's that measurable for you? So what does that look like?
Right.
And so she
Good.
mentioned on Facebook, I see motivational things and people encouraging me to increase my relationship. I said, okay, so you see that encouragement from your social media feed? And she says, yes. I said, so what does that look like for you as the person? What are you doing to see that?
Right.
And so then she couldn't really answer that question. So then I said, do you want a close relationship with your family? I said, do you love them and you? She's like, yeah. I said, so what do you do with your family? She's like, well, we go on vacations. We have, family dinners together, blah, blah, blah. I said, perfect. So you spend time with your family. She goes, yeah. So if you want to get closer to God, something measurable that you can do is spend more
Right.
time with them. So maybe
Right.
a 5-minute devotional every morning, studying a scripture every day. You want to find that measurement and identify that. So that was just something real recent that really was tangible, that she said, I didn't realize that, just 5 minutes of prayer or 5 minutes in the Word of God could transform my spiritual relationship with God. And it
Right.
was something that I could see it's increasing and helping my relationship.
Right.
So,
Right. Why do you think that we actually need people to be in front of us to motivate us? I mean, why come we can't just motivate ourselves? Why do we need conferences and retreats and?
are you living in this world?
Did he just say that?
I mean,
Yeah. I mean, I want you to tell them.
okay, I'll tell you. I'm like,
So if we weren't on this is where Auntie Mama go, pop. You know what I'm saying? I'm like,
are you here? So, I mean,
yo, to tell them actually, because sometimes people feel like, well, I don't need anybody to help me to develop me. So, because it
saying
could
that I'm
be,
not believing you.
so it could be just where a person is. And so what could you say to encourage that person? Because sometimes people do feel like that, and they could feel that way out of hurt.
I give you that.
Yeah.
And
They
I-
can,
I
so
can
and then
see
out of
that.
hurt they can separate themselves to say, well, so why do I need someone? So walk us through, because we're talking about communication for future development. So therefore, communicate with that person that is out there listening right now to that says, why do I need somebody else? Because I've been hurt. So what can you do in the way of communication to develop them? Because right now somebody is listening.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
that may say,
Right. So, closed mouths don't get fed. First and foremost, my mom used to always tell me that, and I'm going to go two different ways with this.
Okay.
If something hurts you, something has offended you, someone has wronged you, if you don't talk about that, if you don't bring that up, if you don't address that issue, it will fester. It's like a wound that just, you fill it up, you try to cover over with ointment or something, and it just doesn't work. You have to dig that out, and you got to address it. You've got to communicate that offense. You have to, first and foremost. So in this day and age, we live in a microwave society. So pop, everything's brand new, happen right now. But in reality, that's not how we deal with our emotions. That's not how we deal with our feelings. If you wrong me right now, I'm not just going to be like, that's okay, we're good. I'm going to take that, and I may say, no problem, it's okay. And I'm going to then become bitter toward you,
Right.
because I never addressed the hurt to begin with. We also live in a social media society where we have that defense of a screen, a computer screen or a phone screen, to kind of block off those true emotions of what we're feeling,
Right.
and how we can, the JKs and the LOLs, oh, JK, no, I was serious. You were real. You really didn't like what I said.
Right.
And just say that.
Yeah.
But we hide behind those masks so that we don't have to communicate the true hurt that we feel. So we need people today that will say, hey, you've got to talk about that. You have to identify the hurt, because if you don't, then what we're doing is getting into a generation now where you can't have a disagreement without
Right.
cutting people out of your life.
Right.
No one wants
Right.
to address the hurt, and now whoever addresses the hurt is in the wrong, and it's just your problem, and why does there have
Yeah.
to be any wrong or any
Yeah.
issue? Well, that's not going to get us anywhere.
Right. That's good.
If you can't tell me how I feel, and I can't tell you how you feel.
Right.
So you have to tell me how you feel,
Good.
which is communication.
Right. It is communication. So you just went down a really interesting avenue, because if we're talking about teaching communication for future development, and you're talking to youth, they're going to be in a work setting where they're going to get injured, and they need to know how to be able to deal with that. Even if
Oh, is that me?
he's got his phone on.
Is that me? Oh, that's my alarm. I keep alarms for everything. I communicate with myself.
That's why. See, I love doing YouTube channels with close people, because you never know what's gonna happen.
That was alarm. Like, hey, you need to send out that text. I was ready.
Okay,
To
that's
communicate.
good. That's right. So the big issue here is being able to know how to communicate when you're out in the job world, because things are going to happen. And as Christians, we have to know how to really be real. And we may not have someone maybe on the job to be able to communicate with, but we have to do something to be able to communicate. Because if we don't, then it it's held within and it does more damage to you. So even if you feel like that you have no safe place, you know, we just want to encourage you that even if you have to scream it out with God,
Yeah.
and God will provide whatever we need. He will provide,
Yeah.
but you still got to be able to deal with this communication and so that it can be able to help you.
And I'll even add to, and not just communicate to someone who's wronged you. That communication goes to God, just like you said. Even if you've got to scream it out to God, communicate. If you got that hurt, He wants to know about that too.
Yeah.
Your family, you know, your parents may have offended you, so you think.
We'll talk about this afterwards because he's offended me. No, I'm just playing. Go ahead.
Well, communicate that. I'm glad. We'll communicate that. You know, family, you got to communicate. And you know what's, so, okay, this is just, you may not, but so just me.
Okay.
One of the most awkward things that people don't like to do is like confront family and like church friends as well. I see this all the time because, you know, you want to be all lovey-dovey and, you know, I can't address mom and dad about the hurt, or I can't address the pastor about the hurt. You can go either way with this. If you don't address it, if they don't know, like if they're not going, you know, if they don't know, they don't have an opportunity to fix it. Now, sometimes it's not always possible to fix at that time. Understandable. But if you don't have that opportunity to discuss it, it probably won't ever be resolved. So don't ever think mom and dad are too not understanding to handle it. Close friends, family, you got to address that, because if you let that bubble up all on the inside, it's going to explode. And if you've been around me when I explode from not communicating, it's not pretty. Yeah, it's not pretty at all. So just, I mean, from the top bottom, God all the way down.
Yeah. One thing about communication, is that when you are talking, because we're talking about this, teaching it to develop, you got to be able to, people got to be ready for the conversation. Because lots of times we play our own tapes. We have tapes that we play.
Oh, that's too much now.
Yeah.
That's good.
Tapes that we play, and those tapes, and not only mention that from a spiritual standpoint, but I have to have ongoing classes too, because we that are leaders at the university that I work at, we have to have ongoing retreats. And they actually talked about these, I've learned about these tapes in church, but they actually talked about the tapes in my class that I was attending, because a lot of times when someone is approaching you, they're already playing a tape about what you did. So when they're playing the tape, they really don't hear you. So can you talk a little bit about that as far as when you're having a discussion with somebody? So therefore, you have to know when it is time to have this discussion. Because if you have a discussion prematurely, then you're probably going to walk off being more hurt than you were, because especially if the person's not really ready to hear you. And so can you talk a little bit about that before we wrap this up in development and helping someone? Because you have to really develop these skills and be able to handle what's coming next.
This is true. You can't control other people. I don't know what someone else is thinking, how they're feeling, where they're at. All I can do is wait on God to reveal to me when it's time to address it. If you're not a person of faith, then you kind of play the atmosphere and play the situation and get a feel for the atmosphere. Do you feel the tension? Do you feel, whatever's happening? You want to kind of analyze that, assess that situation, and then bring it up on a one-on-one setting. I wouldn't do it publicly to embarrass anybody, but one-on-one. And the way that I've been trained just with studying and taught at other sessions is you identify how you feel. Don't ever accuse. This is what you did. But however, when this happened, this is how I felt about it. This is what I received out of that. That's something that no one can argue about. You can't tell me how I feel. I think when having those difficult conversations, if they're not ready, maybe they're not ready yet. But if and when they do get ready, if they say to you, hey, there's something wrong, we need to talk, or the Lord is saying now is the time, or the workplace, the tension has left, and now you can say, hey, boss, can I talk to you real quick?
Right.
Then you want to have that one-on-one there. But just don't, you can't force it, but just don't push it aside as though it never happened.
Right.
Just try to find the right time to address it.
That's good.
That's what I was saying.
Thank you.
Of course,
I
thank you.
I think you're okay.